Okay, Chanukah Sameach, everyone. So we'll do something a little bit different tonight. We mentioned last night, briefly, the question which many of them Farshim ask, and many of the Poskim, which is what is the relationship between the two miracles of Chanukah, the Nes Pach HaShemen and the Nes HaMilchama? And the Maharal writes that obviously the Milchama was a far greater miracle. But there's always a rational explanation. There's always a natural explanation. You know, we were more determined, we had more courage, we had whatever, more resilience, however it is, you can explain things away. But when you see oil that can only last for 1 day and it burns for 8 days, and that is completely supernatural, there is no natural justification to give for that. So that is a sign, and that is a way to say that even the things that seem natural, that could have maybe had a natural explanation, nonetheless, Hashem is behind everything, and it is clear, and it is obvious, and there is no way to refute that, no way to deny that. That's what the Maharal says about Chanukah. And I was thinking that nowadays as well, you know, Rav Soloveitchik brings, he says in the Ala Nisim, when we say Bayim Imahem Bizman Hazeh, so there are those who have the Girsa who add in a Vav, and they say Bayim Imahem Ubizman Hazeh. That just as there are miracles in those days, there are miracles in our days, and we think about where we are, and we think about what's happened over the past year plus. So I think that we have seen as well our own Nes Pach HaShemen in many, many, many different ways. If we stop to reflect, and Chanukah is the perfect time to do that, because this is the time of Halel and Hoda'ah, a time of Thanksgiving, a time the Saper Banisim V'Niflaot. So I think if we just stop and reflect for a few moments, and we've done it throughout the year at different occasions, but we think about some of the miracles that we've seen in recent days and going back over the past 14 months, you know, there are too many things that are just too unnatural, supernatural, too miraculous to have any doubt that, you know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind us. And I had a zchut today. I was in Eretz Chemda this afternoon, so they had a special Seudat Hodaya. Many of the Avrechim, who are also Chayalim, throughout the past year plus, the Beit Midrash has been very, very empty most of the time, because people have been called out for Miluim twice, 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is. And they had a Seudat Hodaya. Many of the people who've been on Miluim and the soldiers were telling stories of Nisim, and it's unbelievable. One after the other, you see the things that people have experienced and what they've been through and what they were saved from, and there is no rational explanation. So I thought that in that spirit of the Saper Banisim V'Niflaot, what was Bayim Yemahem, Uvizman Hazeh, I thought to myself that there are 8, because obviously 8 is the number of Chanukah. The truth is there are many more, but I thought 8 categories, at least 8 miracles, 8 things which we have all seen and experienced and witnessed, which are in a sense the Nes Pach HaShemen of nowadays. And it's worth stopping and just thinking about each one of these. We don't have time now to go through all 8, but we'll see how quickly we go. But we'll mention some of them, and again, as a way of giving thanks and giving halal and hoda'ah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the miracles that were B'yamim ha'em u'bizman hazeh. So nothing that I'm saying here is a surprise to anybody. I don't think anything I'm saying is really going to be a chiddush. But again, it's worth thinking, and it's worth reflecting and giving thanks on that as well. So the first one, I think the very first miracle that we have to be thankful for, and again, of course, we're still at war, and there are still people out there fighting, and there are harugim, and there are ptsuim, and there are chatufim. We don't forget any of that for a moment. We're still saying Tehillim every day, and we're still praying for all of that and for all those people, for ourselves. But at the same time, we give thanks for what we have. So I still think that the first, perhaps, miracle is if we go back to what happened on October 7th, on Simchat Torah. And again, it seems it's difficult to say that there were miracles on that day with all that happened. But the fact that Hezbollah did not attack on that day and it did not join in with Hamas, you know, for years, they've been talking about this coordinated attack, this multi-front war. If all the enemies from all sides had attacked at the same time, who knows what would have happened? And no one knows why Hezbollah decided not to attack and not to join in on that day. But we can only imagine. I saw a couple of days ago, one of the army generals said that the plan was that the first 2 days of war in the north, in the first 2 days, Hezbollah was planning to fire 15,000 rockets. They didn't do that because many of those rockets were taken out. They lost those capabilities by the time that we started. But yeah, can you imagine? I mean, there were headlines here. There were estimates of thousands of casualties a day, of buildings falling down, of all sorts of things, all sorts of disasters. And the fact that didn't happen, that in itself, that is a miracle. Today, at the surah that I mentioned to you, so one of the people was talking, one of the chayalim, he said that he was in a certain unit and he was up north, and they discovered a tunnel, one of the main Hezbollah tunnels they have up north, which was meant to house 1,000 terrorists at once, 1,000 terrorists and their cars and their vehicles and everything. And that's what they were going to use to attack and to kidnap and to murder and all sorts of things. We've seen some of the plans that they have, and we can only imagine what could have been and what might have been, but Baruch Hashem, it didn't happen. That in itself, I think that number one is a tremendous miracle, and that's something we have to give thanks for. Number two, we all remember before Pesach last year, and then again, this is number two and number three, before Pesach, and then again before Rosh Hashanah, again, the Iranian attacks of all those missiles and hundreds of ballistic missiles which landed, and they caused a certain amount of damage. Not all of it was published, and some of it was hidden, whatever. But hundreds and hundreds of rockets, and not a single Jewish casualty. Right? There was one, I think, in the first one or the second one. I don't remember now. There was one Arab who was killed, but not a single casualty amongst Am Yisrael. Not that amount of rockets. Scientists said there was, I quoted it here before once. I don't know how they did this calculation, but somebody said that the likelihood of that happening, of 99% of those rockets missing their target and not causing any damage, the likelihood of that was far less than the splitting of the sea, for example, which is again, how exactly you work that out and how you work out the likelihood of the statistics, I don't know, but it's clear to all of us that what happened there was not normal, was not natural, and it's again another Nespach Hashem in our days. I heard a number today as well. If you look back from the beginning of this war until today, all the rockets and the missiles and the drones, and over 31,000 have been fired against us. Even if a small fraction of those was going to hit the target, you look at the casualty numbers again. Every single person who died is a tragedy, and we mourn for that. But the numbers here do not make any sense whatsoever. The only way to explain it is, I think, again, Nespach Hashem. So, number one, the fact they didn't attack us on that day. Number two, the first Iranian attack, the second Iranian attack, we're up to 3. Number 4, I think, and I heard just before I came into shul this evening that at these very moments, Israel is attacking in Yemen. Right? The Air Force is the airport and the ports and I don't know what else. But again, this is not the first time. We've attacked in Yemen, we've attacked in Iran, we've attacked in these places thousands of kilometers away from the border. And again, the fact that we can talk about military technology and we can talk about sophistication and we can talk about practice and all sorts of things. But the fact that so many times we've gone and our planes have gone so far away from the borders and have gone through, and not a single plane has been shot down, and not a single pilot was taken captive or was killed or anything. That again, there is no way to explain it. So that is number 4. Number 5. Maybe we'll start. Maybe this is the last one we'll mention for now. But we all remember how the war in the north started, Operation Beeper, or in Hebrew, Mivtza Beepel. Mivtza Beepel. These things, again, these are things which, if they hadn't actually happened, nobody would ever have believed them. The first day was the beepers, the next day was the walkie-talkies. You can imagine somebody wrote, a spy novel or a movie and made up a story. One day there's going to be a war and they're going to sell these beepers and they're going to all explode and they're going to all lose their hands and lose their eyes. And you would never have believed it. You would have said that is way too far-fetched. That can't be. Right? They won't make a good book. They won't make a good movie, because nobody will ever believe such a thing could happen. Such a thing happened. That's exactly what happened. So again, we can put it down to our ingenuity, and we can put it down to our creativity, and we can put it down to our technology, or we can open our eyes, we can have some perspective, and we can understand. So those are 5 of the 8. Like I said, there are many, many more, and every person who's been involved in this and has seen things and has heard things and has witnessed things themselves. But these are just some of the nisim v'niflaot that we have leodot u'le'alel בימים ההם ובזמן הזה. רבי חנניה בן עקשיא אומר, הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, כרך בעליהם תורה ומיתות, שני אמר דרך בית זמן צדקו,